Is JEPQ still a good ETF to buy and hold right now, with the markets at all-time highs? This is a question we're going to be kind of answering today as we dive into the JEPQ ETF and talk about its income generating strategy. So JEPQ is still to this day one of my favorite monthly dividend ETFs, despite all of the new and shiny income ETFs with astronomical dividend yields. And speaking of yields, JEPQ still has an 11.3% dividend yield, even with the stock market continually reaching fresh all-time highs. Over the past 12 months now, it's been paying a monthly dividend of anywhere between 40 to about 60 cents per share, with its highest payout this year being on the 1st of June at 62 cents per share. And technically this was the payment for the month of May, but it just happened to be paid on June 1st. Now this means if you were to have bought around $100,000 worth of JEPQ in early May, your dividend payment on June 1st would have been around $1,200. And you'd of course continue to receive about that much in cash flow every single month going forward. For those of you who don't know, JEPQ is a covered call ETF that generates income every month by selling calls on the NASDAQ, collecting weekly premiums from those options, and then paying out a dividend every month to its shareholders. It also collects dividends from the underlying stocks in its portfolio, which also helps in keeping those monthly payouts consistent. It does have a fairly low expense ratio compared to other income ETFs at 0.35%, and it's also a growing fund too. Its net assets are around $28.2 billion, growing by about $7 billion alone this year. So it's a fund that's definitely gaining more in popularity by the year. Now, one thing that's definitely worth noting when it comes to performance is that comparing it to an S&P 500 ETF like Vanguard's VOO, there's quite a bit of underperformance on the 3-year chart. Now, the 3-year chart is technically JEPQ's all-time chart because it is only about 3 years old. But even looking at the year-to-date returns, JEPQ does still underperform by a couple percentage points, mainly because those capital gains are capped during a market rally because of its covered call strategy. So going forward, there is a chance that long-term we will see JEPQ beat out these S&P 500 ETFs. But the fact is, as of right now, with JEPQ, you are sacrificing a good amount of growth for that consistent monthly income. And I do understand that comparing a fund like JEPQ to an S&P 500 ETF might be like comparing apples to oranges because of how growth-focused the S&P 500 is, but I still wanted to at least highlight the slight underperformance there. The good news with an ETF like JEPQ is that when the market inevitably falls, the NAV for JEPQ falls as well, but typically those monthly payments stay the same, or in some cases are even higher because of the volatility that comes with market corrections. So when the price for JEPQ falls, the yield in a way goes up. For example, if you were to have bought a huge chunk of JEPQ back in early April of this year, your yield on cost, or your true yield, would be about 13.2%. And that's of course assuming you didn't dollar cost average until now. But the point still stands that when the price of JEPQ falls and you're able to buy it at a low price, you're essentially giving yourself a pay increase, especially if you are a long-term income investor. I also do think that an ETF like JEPQ is perfect to combine with another ETF, such as SCHG, mainly because they are two completely different ETFs with different strategies, but they both have that same goal of putting more money into your pocket and increasing your wealth long term. So answering the original question that we had with all of this in mind, I do think that it's a great time to continue buying JEPQ, even with the market at its all-time highs, and especially when the market comes falling back down. But that is, of course, just my opinion, so let me know what you guys think of JEPQ and whether or not you think it's worth it to buy and hold long term, and I will see you all next time.